All right, so let me get to my third topic. And third topic is really delving into the meat of the abortion debate, and that is women's rights. That's something that we also are dealing with a lot in this country. And so often when we're talking about abortion, we're talking about pro-life. It's often equated to suppressing women's rights. And it's amazing that we sit here and we talk about women's rights because it's hypocrisy. First of all, in this country, from my understanding, we are all supposed to be equal. There's no such thing as women's rights, men's rights. There are rights for the citizens of this country. That's my understanding of it. The second thing that I do not understand with dealing with women's rights is this hypocrisy that goes on. It's just this idea that because women are able to have um, babies, that they should be afforded the right to choose if they should have a baby or not because they want to be on par with men, and that it should be their choice and it shouldn't be men's choice because men can't have babies. Well, let me break that down a little bit. First of all, there's no baby that's going to be formed without a man. And so when we talk about women's rights, let's understand that women's rights isn't a matter of, okay, it's just a woman. Women, when you decide that you are going to have sexual relations with a man, you throwing those rights out the window. It's no longer just about you, because now you're in a relationship. Whether you are married, you're in a relationship with that man, or you just happen to meet somebody for a night, whatever. The bottom line is the moment that you have that time with that man, you have sex, unprotected sex, whatever type of sex, you have put yourself in a position where you are dealing with more than just one person. So when that child is conceived, it's not conceived just for you. It's conceived for that man as well. And so to even take it a step further, if these women who say that they're about women's rights and everything, if they were not given the option of abortion, I wonder how many of them would sit here and go out and try to get child support. Just really think about that for a second, because I just think that that's hypocritical. How many of these women that are crying about women's rights would sit up here and not go for child support? I don't really know too many women that would be put in that position that would not go for child support, and I think that that is something that is flawed in dealing with this process. But in addition to that, I think that's also hypocritical to think that somehow you have more rights than that child. Because again, going back to the first point, someone made a choice to have you here. Before you got these women's rights, someone had to give you the right to live. So what makes you think that you have the power to decide if someone else should live or not? That is something that's completely flawed. And I just don't understand the logic behind it. So of course, I hear it now. I already hear somebody saying it. What about women that are raped? What about women that are raped? Well, it, first of all, let me just say that that is an extremely difficult topic, and I don't want to make this seem like I don't understand the totality of it, because I understand how that in a way I can empathize with understanding how that can be a very difficult process. And I'm actually I had someone told me that they believe that abortions in the case of rape is okay because basically those women will not have to deal with that man that they had a child with once the baby's aborted. That's not true at all. Because you really think about it, rapes don't necessarily happen from men that are unrelated to those women. What about, situations where there's a connection between friends, or it could be like, it could even, sadly to say, it could be even be a family member, a distant family member. It could be someone of that nature. To say that abortion is just going to allow you to get rid of that person is completely flawed, because that's not necessarily the case. Abortion does not rid you of the relationship of that rapist, because there's always a possibility that you still have some direct connection with that person. What if you already have a child with that person? What if that's a possibility? Does aborting that second child or the third child or whatever child that may be, does that rid you of that person, or is the fact is that person is still the father of your other children? Those type of things you can't erase, you can't get away from. And as difficult as it is, it's just it's not right to abort a child under any circumstance. And let me preface that by saying that if it's a life or death situation with the mother and the child, they're struggling for life. I mean, that's something different. But I'm just talking about a woman's rape and the whole idea. Okay, the woman should abort the child. Well, that's just, to me, it's flawed in its purpose, because you're not getting away from the emotional side of it. Those physical pains that you have went through in that process are not going to change. Aborting that child is not going to change the reality of what just happened. And that's something that's completely flawed, that people have been led to believe that getting an abortion after a rape is going to rid you of the pain. There's so many psychological things that go on in the process of rape that aborting a child is not going to change anything. If anything, it can make it worse, because not only are you dealing with the fact that you've been raped, but you had to deal with the fact that you're dealing with an abortion. And so all it does is compounds those issues. And then on top of that, you have to think about the fact that that child did not make that decision to rape you. That child did not make that decision to be birthed. That child is a victim of circumstance, so to speak. But the amazing thing is, the blessing out of all this is, and this goes back to Romans 8:28, is that for whoever believes, the good and bad can be made good. And I'm just paraphrasing what it says, but basically, you can take a situation where there's a rape that's going on, and it can be turned to a good thing. People look at being pregnant and having a child as a bad thing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. There's so many people in this world that desire to have children, to have a family. They do not have the opportunity to do so. And the reason why they do not have the opportunity to do so is because maybe their physical circumstances or other things that may be going on. And so, for anybody to take the idea of having a child lightly, it's just mind-boggling, because it just lacks perspective. And I do understand the difficulty of looking at that child and knowing that that child was a product of a rape, but you don't have to look at it that way. You can look at it as, first of all, that rapist did not create life. God created life. God is the one that's the giver of life. There has not been a human being on the face of the earth that's created life. So in that circumstance, you can understand that God has placed this child in your life for a reason, for a purpose. It's a blessing. There's been many children who have been birthed from rapes. They have gone on to be productive people in the society, have been blessings to their parents, especially their mothers. And it's because of the fact that there was a mother that realized the power and the blessings of having a child, and they decided, in the midst of everything that was going on, that they were not going to make their child a victim of the circumstance they were put in. So in conclusion, I just say for you to really just to really think about that decision and really think about if having an abortion is really going to solve your issues. And I just want to point you all to two scriptures that really harken on this point and really kind of put things in perspective. And the first one is very common when we talk about abortion is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Second scripture is Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. So, who are we to say that we could be aborting the next president of the United States, who Barack Obama was born in a situation where he very easily could have been aborted? He was in a broken home. And there's many instances where a situation like that could go terribly, terribly wrong. And so I just encourage you all, anybody that is dealing with the situation, to receive guidance, to receive understanding. If you are a believer and you're dealing with and you're struggling with this topic of abortion, I just encourage you to think about the blessings that come out of a childbirth and not think about the burden, because it's not a burden. It's not a burden to have a child. It's a blessing to have a child. To have a child to carry on your legacy is a blessing. And I just pray that you all will receive that and understand the importance that we have here on this earth in allowing the next generation to come up to be healthy and strong. God bless you all.